asking questions. So when we hear from the board of your chair that she was denied access to financial records, that she was denied access to your chief financial officer, and when she pushed for those answers, Mark, you hung up on her. Is that how you guys do business when you're challenged?
Sir, we are grateful for the.
Sorry, Mark. Mark hung up on her. I'm asking about Mark. Mark. She said Mark hung up on her.
Sure. Okay. Well, I'll follow you.
Sir, we're grateful for the 14 years of Michelle. We have great respect for her. The time of the pandemic was extremely challenging for many Canadians. Lots of
I get that. But
really
you hung up on her about financial.
Sir, I don't feel that's a proper characterization of the series of events. We were providing nearly daily briefings to members of the board under the circumstances. We had to make very quick decisions, as many Canadian organizations and nonprofits
Okay,
had.
I get that. Thank you. So now, Craig, you called next.
I would like to
Craig,
finish,
you called and
Mr. Chair,
demanded that she resign. So, Craig, is that like you didn't like the fact that she was asking for financials, and then you say you want her gone, and then you clear the board? I mean, if we don't have that kind of accountability mechanisms within your organization, it raises red flags.
All right, we'll give Craig, who's going to answer, time. Go ahead, Mr. Kielberger.
There are two things that are being brought together here. One is a process that started in the fall of 2019 for board renewal. Names were identified, conversations took part with board
That's not
members.
the question. The question is that you demanded she resign.
Charlie, if we got Mr. Angus, if we could, we'll see where this goes, but we will allow an answer, and then we can go to a supplementary. Mr. Kielberger.
A well-planned, well-executed process took place. Sorry, well-planned. I will acknowledge not executed as well as we had hoped. Process took place starting in fall 2019. Looking at board renewal as we approach 25 years as an organization. And a number of board members were at the end. Sir, I'm seeking to.
I know, but she said that you wanted her to be extended, and then after Mark hung up on her, you demanded she resign. So let's not talk about a well-ordered plan. I'm asking about accountability here. This is the issue. It's accountability.
Things will go a lot smoother if we allow an answer in detail, and we'll all save time. Mr. Kielberger.
So fall of 2019, this starts, names were identified for new board members, process underway. During that process, something none of us could have imagined, a global pandemic took place. There were a total of near daily briefings, 14 to be precise, with various board members took place, a full board meeting, and from when the request for staffing list was acknowledged, 9 days was provided to the board, and for full financial modeling, 11 days.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
By context,
thank
sir,
you. Mr. Easterwheel, let me continue. My time's over.
Well, no, I'm going
to
look. I'm not going
to run the questions, Mr. Chair, but I'm down to less than half my time now. I am not going to take time away from you, but I want to give the witnesses an opportunity for a thorough answer. We got 4 hours with these witnesses. We should be able to allow them the full answers. If it was politicians, then we'd get into the 4 second, but it's not. So complete your answer if you can in less than 15 seconds, Mr. Kielberger.
Suffice to say, we respect Michelle's decision on the matter. We believe that the other board members, in fact, Michelle had one date that she transitioned. By the way, we asked her 3 months later to transition. She chose to do so immediately. We respect that. The other board members went through a different process. The board today has 8 highly qualified individuals.
We'll go back to Mr. Angus. Mr. Angus.
Thank you. Okay, so what we heard is that she was asking financial details. Mark got angry, hung up. You called her. You said you wanted her gone. We'll
allow the question if we could, guys. Mr. Angus.
So then, what we find out, because the Liberals keep telling us about the great work of We Charity, and I don't doubt that, but We Charity isn't handling this money. It's the We Foundation, which she raised questions about. So you move this money into what is essentially a real estate holding company with no oversight. Don't you figure that Canadians are going to have red flags about, I've never heard of a real estate holding company getting upwards of $500 million of taxpayers' money to deliver a program?
Sir, thank you for the question. It was not a real estate holding company. Global News provided that information incorrectly, and we have sought to have that information changed multiple times. If you go back to the source data of the Global News report, they have changed it in the body, but they have not changed it in the title of the headline. It was not a real estate holding company. It was never held any real estate. Sir, no real estate and no assets had ever been placed.
I know there's no assets in there. No assets in there, but it does say that it is there to provide and maintain facilities to house the operations. Now, come on, boys, men. I'm not a real estate lawyer. I don't know law, but I know you guys got you got multiple corporations, and you have this one that's set up to hold real estate, but it doesn't actually hold anything. Why is that where you decide to put your money? That's the question. There's no accountability mechanisms.
Could we have time for an answer?
I'm really glad you answered the question, because this is actually very much incorrect, and we're really thrilled to be able to set the record straight here today. We are. And we'd like to share with you that as part of the conversations with ESDC asked us to assume full liability for up to 40,000 young people who would be volunteering, and accept full liability for those 40,000 young people and all the nonprofits those young people would be volunteering at. So on the advice of professionals working with us.
Okay, so are you telling us that it was the federal government's idea to put this through a real estate holding company? Is that what you're saying? Because that's really, really strange.
I want a full answer here, if we could.
Who in the government signed off on giving the money, upwards $500 million, to a company, holding company that you have, that's original? Purpose was to hold your real estate. Come on.
Okay, now we'll come back, if we could, for a fulsome answer on where the money was held, and then if you know who signed off, you can give that answer as well. But I want to give the gentleman time to answer the question appropriately. Gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We really appreciate it. Mr. Chair, again, this information that's shared by Global News was incorrect. We want to stress this over again. This is not a real estate holding company, and this is actually a charitable organization that was set up to help limit liability. I'm going to say it again, a charitable organization.
It's got no track record, no assets. Charlie, never done anything.
Could we hear the answer? You'll have to make a judgment on that following the answer, if you could. Gentlemen, answer.
To set up to help limit liability. The government of Canada asked us to assume massive liability, sir, as part of this initiative for 40,000 young people volunteering during a pandemic. It would have been very difficult for us to put the entire organization at risk under those circumstances. We had this entity previously set up as one to limit liability, and on the advice of professionals, we used that entity.
But it was a board that your board,
Mr. Angus, let them finish the answer, please.
Question, Mr. Chair,
I know, but they haven't finished the answer to your third question ago.
The board raised questions about this.
And
they can explain how this thing.
Charlie, order, Mr. Angus. Gentlemen, answer the question first, and then we'll allow Mr. Angus one final question.
So it was a legal structure that had the ultimate governance embedded within We Charity. It used the We Charity staff and senior resources. It was a contract that was established and signed by ESDC with, by the way, Section 22 holding the provisions on insurance for the government, sir. This was a very well organized system at the advice of all the responsible experts.
Okay, a last question, Mr. Angus. We're well over time.
What's really concerning here is your board chair that you demanded she resign had raised questions about why you had a shell company that was there to limit liability, and lo and behold, it just became the perfect avenue. Now, I mean, again, I don't hold a bunch of numbered companies. I mean, if I was, I would have thought like you were just a charity, but no, it's set up to limit your liability. It was originally set up for real estate, and then you changed it. So it just, don't you get that this looks kind of dodgy to the average Canadian who's saying, whoa, did we give these guys $500 and some million and we put it into that? Like, what is this?
Sir,
final question, final answer this round. Go ahead.
Sir, the information you're sharing is fundamentally incorrect. We're seeking to be able to share with you the proper information.
But I'm looking at the form.
Mr. Angus,
it's not
Mr.
incorrect.
Angus, come on.
It's not incorrect.
Mr. Angus.
Sir. The purpose here was to help limit liability. There was multitudes of purposes for this entity. The primary purpose was to limit.
That's real estate.
Chair, may we finish? was to limit liability.
It was formally recognized in June for the very purpose. As we created this partnership with the government, it was amended in its structure.
Amended, yes, it was amended. You're correct.
Mr. Angus,
it's not a company, sir, a nonprofit with the proper structure in place of ultimate governance, with a staff of We Charity. So quite literally, this is an appropriate.
Your board was your employees.
Mr. Angus.
That's not governance.
Mr. Angus, come on.
With respect,
governance.
Yeah, actually, with respect, sir, you're incorrect in the statement. How the structure of governance was established, it was such that We Charity Board of Directors were the members. They had the ultimate authority through the legal governance and structure in place. I say with respect. I know
that's not what our chair just said. Your former chair said. She said she didn't
Mr.
know
Angus,
why you guys
we are going.